Hi there and welcome. This is Jackie Corlett from Motif Handmade, and I'm really excited to be with you again. Looking forward to sharing afresh the details of how to create these amazing sustainable fabrics that are hand woven in Bangladesh. I know you're going to love working with them, and I know your customers are going to love them as well because they tick all the right boxes in terms of how ethical fashion needs to start with ethical fabrics. So what I'd like to do first of all is to bring you over to my loom that I work with here in the house. It's just a tiny little table loom on my dining room table, and I'd just like to go through with you just the basics of how to build a fabric. I know many of you are going to be familiar with that already, but just so that we're all on the same page, I just want to be able to put that basic structure in place for you, and then we'll go from there. So for now, please just come on over with me to my dining room table. All right, see you in a moment. Hi there. So just wanted to introduce you to the basics of weaving. Now I know some of you are going to be very well aware of all of this, but just as a recap for all of us, how to actually create a fabric is by the threads, the warp threads that come through the loom. They're the vertical ones. They form the grain of the fabric that you're used to sewing with. And then the weft is this yarn, okay? The weft goes from left to right. That's how you remember the difference between the two, the warp and the weft. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the basics because this is how our fabric gets built. We're picking up two shafts, putting across a pick of weft, that's called a pick, banging it into place, picking up the other two shafts, putting across another pick, and that is essentially how a fabric is built. One thread at a time going across. Now I know for me working here at home on my dining room table, this takes a long time, but this is how I design fabrics. Oops, put one in the wrong place there. This is how I design fabrics, and it means that I am able to understand what the weavers are going through when they're creating their fabrics, and that means that I'm creating according to what their capacities are. Now it has to be said, if you see that picture at the end of the document, you'll see that they have a good laugh at the poor quality of my weaving, but I don't mind. It gives them a laugh, it gives me a chance to do some weaving, which I love. Hi there. Great, so you're all experts now, right? So you remember the warp is the vertical stripe coming through the loom, and the weft is what goes from left to right across the loom. So that's basically how you construct a fabric. And what we're going to look at now is the incredible potential that there is in that very simple process to create fabrics ad infinitum. So if we take a look at planes first of all, using the recycled yarns, we can weave with cotton as well. We can create all kinds of beautiful fabrics and colors with cottons, so keep that in mind. But right now we're just looking at using the recycled yarns, the zero waste yarns. So with that grey, that is the zero waste grey, this is the base grey, and what you can see in there is these beautiful slight flecks of other colors, right? So as we weave with that warp and weft, we can take maybe 50 yards of that. So on that same grey warp, we would then weave across 50 yards of the red. Again, you see that beautiful texture coming through, the visual texture. having done 50 yards in that, we can weave 50 yards of the black. Okay, so then look what you've got, this amazing coordinated range of 3 beautiful fabrics. Yeah, isn't that glorious? So that's what can happen with the plain. Then of course we get into stripes. That's when the excitement really starts. So on the design sheet I've put forward that there are very simple block stripes, same distance apart, same dimensions, and then woven as a check across. So you can see those, and they can be any width from 1/4 of an inch up to whatever you like. The other stripe that I've put up there is what I call the ripple stripe, and it's called the ripple stripe because I just love this stripe. The grey and the red sort of ripple in and out of each other because they're exactly the same count in each one. So what this one is the red and grey warp stripe with the grey yarn going through it. So again, you see the beautiful little flecks of other colours in there. Following that, we've put through the red of that same stripe, really classic bold red stripe there with the soft grey. And what you'd be having at that point is 2 beautifully coordinated stripes with, once the weavers get their magic involved, they will put that vertical stripe and they will create a horizontal weft stripe with it, creating this magnificent check. So then that comes into your collection and gives you this wonderfully coordinated palette, right? Then, if you wanted to, you could have another warp going with the plain on, and you could have maybe 75 yards each of this. Yeah, great for small batch production. Right, and let me just show it to you in the black so that you get another understanding of what happens. So there it is in the black with the grey going across, right? Here it is again, the black and grey with the black going across. And then once more, that amazing magic that happens when the vertical becomes horizontal. So that you have that combination again. It just looks so classic and chic. And if you're wanting to, you can create with the plains too. And you've got that going on. Not wonderful? Yeah. So in terms of its sustainability, this yarn, this fabric, it just checks all the boxes, because what happens is that the yarn itself is 0 waste, so it's saving landfill. The garment scraps are collected up, separated out into colours. What happens then is that those colours are broken down and spun into yarn. So you get red yarn and black yarn and those other colour yarns that are now on your design sheet now. They haven't been dyed. There's been no need to re-dye them. They're completely colour fast and no new dye, no toxicity going into the environment at all. So those are the yarns that we're using to create these new fabrics that are hand woven, which are therefore 0 carbon practically in terms of production. And so that's what's happening when we move into production in rural communities. The hand weavers, to create a hand woven cloth, many of you know, requires at least a dozen steps in the village before it even gets to the loom. And so you're employing masses of people in the production of even just one fabric. So what happens then is that employment opportunities exist in the rural areas, and rural urban migration, which decimates families, begins to stop. And so we see families being built up, we see the environment restored, and we see people being able to earn a good wage because all of these fabrics are all fair trade woven. So there we have it. I'm really looking forward to working on some of these new designs with you, and trusting that as sustainable options get into the hands of designers, that's when the changes really can begin to happen for our communities, because then they're able to get out into the hands of the public, and the people want them. People want to be choosing well for their futures now, for their children's futures, and it requires sustainable options to be there in the marketplace, and that's what you guys are being equipped to move with. So get your design thinking on. Think through what kind of fabrics would go well for you. Reach out to me with any questions whatsoever. And just in terms of lead time, know that a yarn, a warp of about 150 yards will take about 2 months to weave. And so if you get your designs in by mid-March, end of March, we'll be able to be delivering them come the end of May, early June, somewhere around there. So we're on track to be able to equip you for what's ahead. Really looking forward to it, and so thankful that you guys are determined to be in ethical fashion, and to know that ethical fashion begins with ethical fabrics, and that's what I really want to supply you with. Okay, every blessing, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Take care. Bye.